so before this weekend, I hadn't met Mike, and he hadn't met me. But I could tell, just in our short chat last night, that he had that magnetism that is, quite like my dad, and that authenticity that really came through right away. And we started chatting a little bit about authenticity and how that kind of manifests in the business, sort of unintentionally, but that's what draws me to people, right? And I'll let you go ahead on a little bit. You've had way more time in this business than I have. And I've noticed that the more authentic and grounded I can become, the more that people open up to me, and the more I have even to share with them. And realize that we're in a trusted space. And it becomes so moving to have that. And that's what you're about. So go ahead.
Well, no, I agree. I think in our business, it's really tough, right? It's like, as a real estate agent, it's almost like when you hire an attorney. If you hire an attorney and your attorney pulls up in a 1987 Toyota Camry, you're like, But if the attorney pulls up in a 2025 something brand new shiny with the top back, you're like, maybe that's who I'm hiring. Well, we end up having to feel the same way as real estate agents. Many times, you hear agents talking about faking it till you make it, right? We got to look the part. We have to wear the suits to the listing appointment. We have to wear the heels to the dress. We have to always be on, even if I haven't sold any homes over the last 12 months. And when agents say that, I hear agents say, you just got to fake it till you make it. I don't believe that. I believe you have to faith it till you make it.
Come on now.
You gotta faith it till you make it. And it's truly, real estate is a faith-driven sport. You have to have hope. You have to have perseverance. You have to believe in things not yet seen. Right? And so when you share that authenticity, when you share that and you believe that, then it makes it easier to gain a client, because your client they understand where you're coming from. They've seen struggles. There's a reason why they're choosing to sell their house. And it's not always happy reasons. There are people going through life, because you all know life is always lifing. So are we getting to what they're going through and speaking to the heart of their issues so that we can remind them of their reason? We can remind them of their why when it starts getting hard.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and that's why I let you talk. You know exactly what you're saying. I'll quickly give you guys just a little context on myself. I moved up to the Bay Area from Los Angeles after my wife and I had our son Roman. And the idea behind it was that I would help my dad sort of take over some of the grunt work that he no longer wanted to do, because he was focusing on motivating and speaking and coaching around the United States and beyond. And I know that he'd always been excited about at least one of his sons. He wanted both of us, but I was the one who chose to step into real estate with him. And I'll talk about this later, but we got to door knock together and we got to spend time together like we hadn't really ever before. And that's all because the universe sort of pushed us in this way. And if I had done anything to get in the way of that, I know I would regret where I was if I was still there. But I followed what the universe wanted for me, and I went to work with my dad. And what has happened from then, even when I had to recommit to doing this job because the person I was going to do it with was no longer there. So I made a recommitment to myself, to my wife, to my family, that this is what I do. And the first real big, and I told you about this last night, the first big connection I had was when I met somebody for the first time, and I was like, I lost my father. He was in real estate for his whole life, and that was it for them. Like, that's all it took for them to tell me about the struggles that they've been going through, why they're selling their house, and all the things they do. And I talk to those people like probably once a day at this point, And they're like good friends. They invited us to their daughter's graduation. I'm like, we're buddies now. And anything that they do in real estate, I'm the guy. And that's not any sort of manipulation. That's just a connection that I happen to build because I'm in real estate, because I'm looking for relationships and to build connections with people. And I truly believe that that is what my dad experienced in life. Like, these people are coming to me and they see me aligned and open, honest, and authentic, and they have no problem connecting with me forever after. And that, if I can, garner a piece of that from what my dad was doing, I'll be a lucky, happy man.
I think that's what it means to leave a legacy, right? It's not about the money, it's not about the things, but it's the core beliefs, the heart of the matter. And if you're able to just, I love how you're making an impact with something that your dad founded for you. I think that's beautiful. And I think that's something that we all want to do. We all want to leave a legacy. But I love when I'm in Cabo, sitting and they're talking about the Rick Geha Award, and they get on stage and they start talking about the award, and they start talking about what the purpose of the award is. Someone who is consistently authentic, optimistic, and loving. And I'm like, man. And then they show a video of your dad. They show a video of Rick Geha, and I'm sitting there with someone that I had invited to the Cabo experience, and I was explaining to him who Rick Geha is and what he meant to me. And this guy was always a sharp dresser, and I look for him at every event, and does all this stuff. And then I hear them say, it's more important, this award is not so much about leaving a legacy as it is about living a legacy. And I was like, ooh. And they said, Michael Collier, come on to the stage. And I'm like, well, it really floored me. But as I'm thinking about, and I'm hearing what you're saying, I love that Rick was all about living a legacy. He knew what he was going to be leaving behind, but he wasn't hustling and working and just, and leaving family behind, and they never see him, they never get a chance to speak, to spend time with them, because he's trying to build something that he can leave behind. He was living it out with you. And I just caution, I say that's a word of caution for all of us who are in the room, because there's times where we can also, we can get ahead of ourselves. You spend a lot of days on flights, you're spending more times in hotel rooms in other cities than you are at home with the family that loves you and the people that you say that you're doing it for. But if you're doing it for those people and you're never actually spending time with those people, then you're really kind of doing it for you. But it makes you feel better to say that you're doing it for them. They would rather you see it do it with them. And I love that you got a chance to do this.
Yeah, beautiful. Just as you're saying that, I'm thinking of my wife and my son, and the version that my dad was when he was very young and hustling and being gone all the time and that sort of thing. That's not the version that's not what he wanted, and that's not what he evolved into. And he wanted us there all the time. I got to do open houses when I was a kid, and work in the office when I was a kid, and that is the thing that drives me the most, just like you said, right? If I don't have the harmony at home, then there's nothing. I'm going to go do a job that I have nothing to come home to. It's backwards, right? So those boundaries are very important. And bringing that with you all the time. Like, my son is here, and then as soon as Rob put me on camera, my son was like, Papa! And then he was like, yeah, get him in the camera. And I was like, of course, that's how it's supposed to go. That's how it should be, right? He's part of my life. They're all part of your lives. Make it so. Make it harmonious. Make it cohesive. And it's going to work out beautifully.
Something I truly believe is that, we all have a story of how we got here, before you started doing real estate, whatever it was, good, bad, ugly, all of the stuff in between. But I truly believe that your story is not for you. Your story, that lived experience that you've had, that is not for you to keep quiet or just say, hey, what I went through is what built me to get here, but now the world can see who I am. Hear me roar. That story was actually meant for you to go through and get stronger through, be refined by the fire and not burnt by it, so that you can now share that story in vulnerability, in authenticity, in love with other people, so that they can see themselves in your story and see how you made it through. That's how you inspire hope. That's how you inspire perseverance. People need to hear that story that you've probably been holding back or that you're ashamed of because you made it. And there's people either going through it right now, or they're headed to it right now, or they're probably coming out of it right now, but they're looking for the confidence to use their voice. And so, when you're sitting down with clients, use some of that story. Store stories. When you hear other people's stories, because that's what this lived experience is all about. It's truly about us connecting on a more human level, right? Being more human more often. And when you do that, it makes business even more purposeful. I remember, Rick Geha, I thought he was just an amazing guy, and which he is, right? But I thought he was just an amazing guy, and every time I would go to events, I would look for him. And but I didn't know that he was still in real estate. I didn't know him as well as some of you in the room, and I didn't know he was still in real estate. And then I was sitting in the room one day, and they call him up, and he's giving a presentation on door knocking. And I'm like, this guy isn't door knocking. How old was he? He's like,
yeah, in his 60s probably when you saw him.
Yeah, his 60s, right? I'm like, he's not door knocking in his 60s. And they're like, yeah, he does. And that's how he has a lot of his business, and that's how he's coached agents. And he was someone who did what he said that he does and showed other people how to do it. He was completely authentic. And that is something that resonated with me because he was already somebody that I admired kind of from afar. But when I saw that, I'm like, man, living a legacy and leaving one at the same time.
Absolutely. Yeah, just off the door knocking, that's where I really, have been cutting my teeth, so to speak. And I'm only doing that because, not only, but that's like what I know because that's what Dad is like. This is like balls to the wall. If you're going to do this, if you're going to do real estate, go talk to people who don't necessarily want you at their doorstep right at every moment and see what connections you can make and what you can, what you can create being in the community. And where I door knock is where I grew up, so I'm very connected there. I won't spoil all the door knocking stuff for later, but it's really powerful to make a connection with somebody who's not quite ready for you, but you come in wholeheartedly, and then there's nothing for them to do except for be like, oh, okay, this person is a person of the community and wants to help and wants to be of service and is here if I need them. And that's the joy of it all, right? To show people what I'm here doing, what I'm about.
How many of you all have a largely referral-based business? You get a lot of referrals, right? And some of the people that refer people to you, they probably actually never even done business with you. Isn't that cool? When somebody who you've never even sold a house to is like, hey, you're their person. This is your realtor. You're like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. I remember, and we're going to wrap up here, but I remember that I have a friend whose mom, I sold her house. And the reason why I was selling their house that they had only bought 2 years prior is because her dad, my friend's dad, got sick with cancer and ended up passing away. Now, he was the breadwinner. He was the only one that worked. She had actually never worked a day in her life, the wife. And so here he is, gone. And she has to figure this out. And so they asked me to list the house. And so I came over, did the presentation, still gave her the full thing, and made her understand that I was going to be there for her no matter what. We're going to figure this thing out. We got it. We ran into some issues along the way, and I'll never forget. I'll make this a short story, but I'll never forget when I asked her what the payoff was, what the loan payoff was. She told me what the number was, wrote it down, gave her the seller net sheet. We did everything, got the staging, did all the stuff, and we get under contract. And this at EXPCon Miami just last year. I get a phone call, and it's a frantic phone call because it came through 3 different times after I sent it to voicemail. I finally picked it up, and it was the title company saying, "Hey, we have a problem. She actually needs to bring $20,000 to close it." She didn't have $20,000. How did she need $20,000? What are you talking about? And it was actually $22,000. Turns out that she had the wrong loan payoff number. Because she didn't have access to the account, because everything was in his name, she didn't really have all of the stuff that she needed. Guess what my commission was on that house? $17,000. She didn't have $22,000 to give. So what did I have to do? I gave up my commission. And she was still $5,000 short. So what did I have to do? Call the other agent. And I'd been building a relationship with this agent, not knowing that this day was going to someday come, but we talked about building a relationship with other agents on the other side of the transaction. I helped him to understand what was going on, and I said, man, I am tapped out. You know, I'll show you what I'm making on this deal. But in order for this to close, for your buyers to get this house, and for the seller to get this house sold, you'll have to give it. And he said, okay. And we got it done. And we made the difference because we were willing to give up what we had to make sure that their dream came true. And her mom was able to sell the house, and now they send me all their referrals. I don't suggest that as a business model, but there are some times where you have to give up a little to get a little.
You didn't tell me all that last time. You saved the good stuff. Awesome. I think that's got to be it, right? Wrapping it up. There we go. We got the wrap signal.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you all for listening.